part one, we did take a look at how to create an Excel table in Microsoft OneDrive, and it would be the main data source for the Mycelium project, which is where the students are going to be working on creating a better Linktree app. So let's go ahead and take a look at how quickly Power Apps will build the foundation for the Mycelium app. I must say that this is part of our work where we identified two types of apps that we would be using, one for the data manager or the social media feed owner, and a second one which will be for the consumer. So during this build we are concentrating on an administrative set of functions from the owner of this particular application. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Here we are at OneDrive, and this is the initial Excel data sheet that we created. Just a quick review, the data sheet or the data set has 4 fields for each record, and each of these fields are the social media site, the site URL, notes for the administrator, and the date this was created. In the previous video, I mentioned this as a later annotation, but gonna reinforce this idea. We have to make special note of defining this as a data type, and so to do that, we need to click on the column at the top of the column where the D is, and make sure that we have selected, in this case, short date, just to make sure. To build the app, we will need to go ahead and just go to our app launcher, to the waffle, and scroll through it, and go to Power Apps. I want to mention real quickly that best thing to do is always to close your Excel sheet to make sure it's not write protected. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to go over the interface in general, but we know that either here at home we can start from an Excel sheet, or we can go to create and again have the same block here to start from an Excel sheet. So let's go ahead and click on that. All right, most people will not have all these connectors enabled. So if at the very least you don't see the OneDrive, and it has to be OneDrive for Business that you are looking at, you will need to create that connection by clicking on New Connection. And scrolling through here, find OneDrive for Business. Once you have established that connection, then you will see your different OneDrive for Business folders. I'm going to click here on No Code Data, which is what the folder we created before. We have our social media site data here, and apparently the table did not rename as we expected, so in order to avoid confusion, you should do that in the future, and then click on Connect. All right, and with that, that's all it took for us to build the app. But I do want to highlight one of the quick things we did in class, and that was to do something like look at this particular component and choose a different icon for it. I like using the view icon, and then we can even change the rotation. So that was one of the things we did in class, and then we named this, for example, sites list. So this will contain our sites. Lastly, let's do a quick check for the app. So we're going to run it by clicking on the arrow. We could do F5 for that. And here's our app. So when we click here, we can add a new site. We add today's date. Time really doesn't matter. Our notes, we're going to say Twitter site, the Twitter URL, and the name. Alright, so now we have two. Notice that we didn't have any notes in this one, and here we have notes. And Power Apps has decided that it's going to have our notes first, our URL next, and the title of the site later. So in a later video we will learn how to reorganize the content here, but we can go ahead and test also our updating capability. So we're going to click on our edit, and here we're going to call it, this is the Facebook site. And when you click on submit item, we will go back to this screen, and if we go back home, now we have that updated there. Lastly, the thing we needed to do too is to save this. So I can either do Control S or save. I'm going to do save to the cloud. My Mycelium administration app, I can save that. And finally, I'm going to change the settings. I'm going to add a different icon. I'm going to choose a different icon here. I'm going to use this more options icon for now. And I want to make it this color, but I want to use black there. So that's all I'm going to do now. I click that, and then I'm going to save again. And now the second time I do this, it's going to ask me if I want to publish. I'm going to say yes, and we're done. So in an upcoming episode, we will continue to look at what the different parts of the app are and what the different components do and how you specify the actions for the different components. In the meantime, keep it low code and seize your power with no code power.